Me and Will have spent a combined 25 years working as chefs.
And with the teams in our restaurants, that's hundreds of years of combined kitchen experience.
We've picked up loads of industry secrets and practical shortcuts that can not just help the professional chef, but the home cook as well. Here are the 75 hacks chefs actually use.
Don't you just hate it when your bowl's going all over the place when you're trying to make a mayonnaise? Quick fix, take a cloth over a pan and then your bowl won't move anywhere. Perfect consistency, no spills.
When you're trying to handle mince, it's really frustrating and hard to work with where the mince is so sticky. The hack is, if you take a container of water and just dip your hands in the water before you touch the mince won't stick to your hands at all. So you can easily just shape it. This technique also works amazingly with glucose and also when you're handling doughs.
When seasoning steaks, most people use the wrong salt and the wrong technique. Most people season with flaky salt. However, laying a bed of fine salt and placing your steak directly into it and doing the same on the other side gives you a perfect seasoning crust. I'm going to cook these two up and show you the difference. As you can see, with the fine layer of salt, it's made a more even and almost supercharged Maillard reaction. The flaky salt has limited the contact with the pan and it's inhibited the formation of that beautiful Maillard crust. Perfect crust every single time.
A lot of people have the misconception that to zest a lemon and you just go for it like that. The issue with zesting a lemon like this is inconsistency and bitterness. You see, the pith has been exposed, and that's where the bitterness of the lemon peel actually comes from. A more ideal way, you zest from top to bottom. Top to bottom. You have a much more even zesting, no bitter pith. The actual lemon zest is pure lemon. This lemon has been zested incorrectly, and this has been done the right way. You can see a very clear difference.
On breakfast serving, we're frying upwards of 50 to 100 eggs a day. What's the hack? We don't fry our eggs, we bake them into a tray, add a little bit of oil, and then crack your eggs directly into the trays. For perfect fried eggs, 2.5 minutes at 160 with a little humidity. At home, you can use a small pan of water. Look at those egg yolks. Woo! Season them up, touch of Malden, absolutely perfectly fried eggs, really consistent every time.
To peel tomato skins, traditionally you would mark an X on the bottom. We're going to take the tomato and we're going to just pop it into the boiling water, and what we're looking for is the skin to just slowly start to release, blanch it into the ice cold water, and now it makes it really easy for us to just peel the skins off. However, what this does do is slightly cook the tomato on the outside. It becomes mushy. It's also very time consuming, but now I'm going to show you a really cool hack that takes seconds. You don't have to do the cut, you're gonna just straight blowtorch the skin off. And now it's really just as easy as wiping the skins off. So I've just got some paper towel. This one's been blanched, it's mushy, you've got the cross mark on it. This one, still completely This one is perfect. It's still cold, there's no cross marks on it, ready to concuss.
Nothing more annoying than picking up a tin foil and it looks like this. Can't get a bloody clean sheet. But the way to fix this, get a ball of tin foil. You're gonna hold the tin foil and just very lightly, just brush like so. And what we'll do is get rid of all the other layers so that all of your tin foil gets down to the same level. And as you can see, this ball of tin foil has lifted up some of the layers, leaving me with one clean sheet, ready to cover your gastro.
Peeling garlic is every chef's worst job, but this makes it marginally easier. Take off the big bulbs, put them into a container, run a hot tap, and leave this to soak for at least 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, your garlic will be way easier to peel. All of this rubbish about a bowl and beating the shit out of it, this is the best way. Beautiful peeled garlic in less than 10 minutes.
Most people know the hack where you peel ginger with a spoon, but I think what most people probably aren't aware of is that there is a hack to save you from the pain of grating ginger. Ginger is incredibly fibrous, so all of those fibers just tear and get caught on the microplane. What you can do, whack it in the freezer. We have our frozen ginger, and you can see the thing with ginger is that it's got a really high water content. So when you freeze it, all of that water is turning into ice particles, which are swelling and they're weakening all of that fiber. And then it basically just snaps off. So what you're left with, ginger snow, as opposed to this watery mess. No fibery strands. We peeled this, but to be honest, at home, I just chuck it in the freezer with the peel on. And no fiber stuck in the grater.
So crazy, actually.
It is, guys.
Usually with pickling, you have to get the pickling liquor into a pan. This is a beautiful little hack where all we need to do is pop this in the microwave. After just a couple of minutes on full power, the cucumber's already started to go a little bit more translucent. It started to take on a bit of the yellow hue. and it totally tastes like a pickle. We're gonna pop them in the fridge just to see if they've taken on that classic pickle color. Okay guys, so these are the pickles that have just been in the fridge for a couple of hours. And as you can see, they've already taken on so much more color, softened up a little bit more, and they are everything that you want in a pickle.
When slicing a tart with a cold knife, we get really dirty edges. This is an hack that we use in the kitchen to get really clean slices. We use hot water, warm knife to touch. Once we slice the tart, the knife doesn't stick. We clean it on the cloth. For the next one, we just get a really nice clean slice. You can also use a blowtorch to just lightly warm our knife and then just repeat the process.
We're making a bechamel. Most people will just go in with ice cold milk from their fridge. Creates a really lumpy bechamel. You can see the starch seizes and creates these lumps. And ultimately, this is going to get really hard to work out. It's going to be lumpy. My hack is that you actually need to heat up your milk, trying to achieve the roux and your milk being roughly the same temperature. We're gonna give it a really good whisk and we can get it really nice and smooth now. I like to take it off the heat for a second and then add in the rest of my milk, add it back onto the heat. We've now made it in almost half the time and it's completely smooth.
The worst part about prepping prawns, besides prepping prawns, is removing the poop chute. All you need is the stick of destiny. A toothpick in, and now we got it, and we ever so slightly pull it out. Using the toothpick, it's a good way to keep them whole and then keeping them clean. Now we have a whole undamaged prawn, still intact in the shell.
When you've got absolutely loads of tins to open, easiest way to do it, in the loop, and then you just pull it back with the end of the spoon. 15 cans, super quick, no stress on these little fingers.
Peppers can be a pain in the ass to de-seed. They can be tricky, they're an odd shape, loads of seeds, it's really messy. This hack is a quick and easy way to do it. So we're gonna top the pepper, tail the pepper, one slit, then releasing that first side, we're gonna go into the pepper, just above the membrane, and then using the knife, open out the pepper, remove all of the seeds, and then your pepper is ready for julienne, ready for salads or stir fries or anything else.
Just about to make a super quick mayo. This is a great little hack to do it in record time. We're gonna put eggs in first, mustard for flavor and to help emulsify, a little bit of salt, again for flavor and to help the emulsification. Controversially, we're gonna put in all of the oil at once. And then we take a stick blender right on the base. As the blender starts, it's gonna gradually drag the oil down and make a mayo super quickly. So now you can see some emulsification happening. Raise up the stick blender really slowly, and there you have a super silky mayo in record time. Even though this method is basically foolproof, if it does split, I've got another hack for you later as to how to save it.
One of the biggest issues when fish is cooking is that the skin sticks. A hack that we use, spread a very thin layer of mayonnaise. It could be the skin or the flesh side. It puts a very thin layer of egg and oil between the fish and your cooking surface. This both helps to improve the Maillard reaction and also help the fish stop sticking. And as if by magic, perfectly crispy skin, perfectly non-stick, and a glass-like finish.
So this is one of the techniques that we use to get our eggs right à la minute. Your egg is made up of your yolk and your albumin. Your albumin is thin and thick part. The thick part, when you're poaching it, wraps really nicely around the yolk. You've got these kind of feathery whites that come off of it and stop it from looking like a really nice, perfect poached egg. So by sieving it, we're getting rid of that thin albumin that's gonna come out of the sieve really nicely. I've got my water just barely simmering, lower it into that water. No need for vinegar or anything like that. So there we've got our perfect poached egg. You can see there's no feathery bits.
Once you've got your peeled garlic, mincing garlic takes a long time and is a pain in the arse. This is what most restaurants do. Whack it all in a blender, pour in a little bit of oil, put it into a container, add in some lemon juice, stop it going brown, and top up with oil. Top this with cling film, and this will store in the fridge. Whenever you need a quick tablespoon of garlic, spoon it, you've got the oil and garlic ready to go into the pan.
Problem when skimming a stock with a ladle is you always end up removing too much of the good stock. The hack, fill a ladle with ice. You're gonna gradually lower that into your stock and move it round in a circular motion, leaving the ice in the ladle hovering just above the level of the stock. As the fat cools down, the fat will stick to the outside of the ladle. Once you lift up your ladle, the fat has solidified around the base of the ladle, and then you can easily remove that fat without removing any of the stock.
One of the really important parts of tenderness and carving is going against the grain. If you look in here, this is the way that the grain runs of the meat. These are basically the muscle fibers that have contracted during cooking. And when we carve, we want to go against those. This one is with the grain. Now, despite the fact that this guy's got no teeth, Slightly tougher, still delicious, but nowhere near as tender as the one against the grain.
So I'm just prepping some carrots. Most people take their carrots and they just go straight on a board. Peeling a carrot on a flat board, get these really harsh peel marks. This hack is going to show you how to make almost a Michelin quality looking carrot. Firstly, grab a container. This just elevates your carrot and it also gives you a bit more stability. Slowly peel, overlap your second peel on the first peel. You're never starting a new line. You're completely getting rid of that edge that you've created. Now your carrot already looks better. You can see those super harsh lines over here. And then this one, it's a lot smoother. But then to get this even more perfect, we're just going to take a clean scourer, get into those little nooks that we've missed. This is a perfectly peeled carrot, ready to be blanched for service.
Problem with cutting chives is that quite often the chives splay out. You end up with a few random shapes and sizes. So with this hack, you can get perfectly fine cut chives every time. I'm going to take a damp piece of kitchen towel and I'm going to wrap my chives in the towel. This technique from Thomas Keller is to hold your chives just tight enough to get the perfect cut every time.
You've made something, you put a lot of work in and it's too salty. A really good hack is using these bad boys. A peeled spud. Plop it into your stock. Important to take the skin off because what you want is the stock to be absorbed into the potato as it cooks and it'll draw in some of that salt. It just help take the edge off some of your sauces or stocks. It's been 10 minutes. As you can see, the potatoes changed color and it's absorbed a lot of that stock. You want to take it out before it completely disintegrates because it'll affect the quality of the sauce. Lots of the saltiness has been removed from the stock. So a good last resort, the potato trick always works.
Nothing more frustrating than having dry, old, knackered herbs. This is the solution. When you get your new herbs, wrap them in a piece of absorbent towel, kitchen cloth or a J cloth, tight enough to hold them together, not so tight that it squishes them. Using that elastic band, secure it back around the bunch of herbs. And we're just gonna add a touch of water over the surface of the towel to keep the surface nice and damp. This is gonna keep your herbs fresher for longer. You can then store this inside the fridge. This tarragon was left unwrapped in the fridge for 3 days, compared to my wrapped tarragon, which is gonna last up to 50% longer. But if you still end up with some knackered old herbs, then I've got the perfect hack coming up.
Usually when a mayo completely splits out, the temptation is to just throw it away and start again. There is a hack to bring it back. All we're gonna need is a fresh bowl, a new egg, and a little bit of salt. Gonna crack the egg, get the egg yolk out, put that fresh into the bowl, a little bit of salt just to help with emulsification, and then we're gonna take our split mix, gradually add it to the fresh egg yolk, and you can see already it's starting to thicken up, and so we're just gonna continue to add the spit out mix. So we have our thick, glossy, re-emulsified mayo.
Cleaning lamb racks can be a right pain in the ass. The traditional way, you score around the bone, cut on it around on either side, and you cut off the meat like this, and you end up scraping, and it's never clean. It takes forever. But I've got a hack for you. We're gonna cut down each side of the bone, making sure that you hit the bone itself. So then I'm gonna grab a piece of string, I'm gonna wrap it around the base of the clean bone, make a knot around the bone, place the lamb on the edge of the board, and then pull. In half the time, we've got perfectly clean bones compared to this, where we've got loads of sinew and meat and fat still left on the bone.
Kitchen hack, when you are making a stock, to get all the fat off, you're actually gonna refrigerate it overnight. That's gonna set the fat on the top. You can then easily remove all that fat. You can then reserve this fat to make your stock again. You're now gonna use a chinois to get all those remaining little bits of fat from the top. Can be ready to go on the stove, reduce, and it's going to need minimal skimming.
For anyone who's caramelized onions before, they will know that it does take quite a long time for the onions to break down before the sugars start to caramelize. A great little hack for that is if we just add a little bit of water, and that's going to add a lot of steam to the pan as the onions cook, and with that they're going to break down so much quicker. So just going to finish off with a little bit of salt, which again just helps to draw the moisture out. Cartouche, pop it on top and leave those to sweat down. These have been going for about 20 minutes, so usually when I caramelize onions, don't add any water at all. They would take closer to 40 to completely break down. They've broken down, the cartouche came off, the heat went up, and they're now beautifully golden, sticky, and caramelized, ready for service.
Do you ever wonder how chefs maintain 50 different temperatures of meat and still know what the hell they're doing? We use a system of timers. These timers, which are labeled with all my different proteins, tell me how long things have to rest and have to cook. My duck timer's going off. I know it's ready to go. Having your meat on timers like this just means you never make a mistake because you can keep track of everything that's going on in your drawer and resting. For big steaks like ribeye, which are really expensive, it's really important you stick them on a timer. My timer's ready, so now the steak is ready to carve. Perfect, Wissam, every time.
I'm about to bake my focaccia. I'm gonna show you a hack that gives you a really good oven spring, moisture in the oven, and then ultimately gives you a really good coloring. So I've got it in the oven, and my hack now is to add my ice on a tray at the bottom, and it's just gonna create a little bit more steam. We use ice, not water, so that it has a slower steam effect. As you can see, really perfect coloring across the whole loaf. And then it's got a really amazing texture. So that ice and the steam also helps with crust development. Here we've got a really nice crust on the outside, but then on the bottom it's still nice and soft. And then it's got a really good spring back, so I can just do that.
When people are cooking steaks, when the steak is resting, they either won't wrap it at all, meaning the steak goes cold and doesn't fully hit temperature, or they'll wrap it in foil, resulting in the steak carrying on cooking and achieving a grey, overcooked interior and exterior. The hack: using butter paper to rest your meat inside. 1, a perfect waste product, and 2, it has a matte finish on the inside, meaning that the heat doesn't reflect on the inside of the paper. You can also use baking parchment, resulting in a perfectly cooked steak.
When you have a sauce, the most important part of that sauce is often acidity. People often add the acidic part too early, and the issue with that is that it gets cooked off. Great chef hack is to finish off your sauce with acid. Here we have our red wine sauce. Let me give it a little taste. Very rich, very intense. It is lacking that freshness and that brightness. So we got to finish it with some acid. Here we have a lovely Cabernet Sauvignon vinegar. Just add a few drops in and let's see the difference. Completely lifted up. The richness is now being nicely balanced and ready to go.
Using raw onion in a dish is a great way to add flavor and texture. However, when you cut a raw onion, it releases harsh sulfur compounds. The hack is rinse them in cold running water. Washing the onions in water removes some of that aggressive flavor and leaves you with a really beautiful, clean allium flavor.
When emptying bottles, of which we do a lot when making sauces, fastest way is to use the vortex hack. Sounds more exciting than it is. Hold the bottle by the bottom and twirl it around. Is it any use? When I found it out there, I was like, fuck me.
Using a mandolin on a fine setting is one of the most dangerous tools in the kitchen. Our hack uses a julienne peeler instead. Using a julienne peeler is safer, easier, and all around just much better. A hack within a hack. You can then take your julienne carrot, lay it all together, finely chop the other way, and then you have the perfect petit brunoise.
One of the things I always tell the chefs when cracking eggs is to crack them on a flat surface, and let me show you why. So when you crack it against the side of a bowl, the shell goes inside the egg. You get loads more loose shell in the final product. As you can see, at the base of your bowl, you're left with loads more fragments of egg from cracking it like that. You can crack 10 times quicker without getting any shell whatsoever in your egg mix. Clean as a whistle.
Often when making sauces, the butter and the fat can split away from the stock, resulting in a broken sauce. The hack: gently warm your sauce. And once your sauce is just coming to a simmer, we've got some cubed butter inside some ice water. Now this keeps the butter at the perfect temperature for monteing into our sauce. Take out a block of butter, place that into our sauce. Now the cling film is like this so that when you open and close your drawer, the water doesn't go sloshing all over the place. We're going to slowly dissolve the butter into the sauce, moving the sauce around in a circular motion, and the ice cold butter will slowly melt. And because it's so cold, the layers of the butter will slowly disperse into our sauce, giving us perfectly glossy, perfectly emulsified.
This hack is to get crispy sweet potato fries. We got corn flour, rice flour, plain flour. This is a 1-to-1 ratio of vinegar and water. Sweet potato has a significantly higher sugar content. Those sugars caramelize and burn. Add vinegar to stop the surface burning too quickly. You get even coating. Fry our sweet potatoes like normal. Super crispy on the outside, cooked in the middle.
The undisputed clarified butter hack: to use Chef Mike or the microwave. Clarified butter, you want to separate the milk solids from the fat. Used very often in sauces like hollandaise. Bung in the microwave, 20 seconds per block of butter. Butter comes out, all of the milk solids have collected at the bottom, all the butter is on top. Then you just pour it out of this container. What's left is all the milk solids. Clarified butter, under 3 minutes.
It's giving us the indication that it might be close to splitting. So here is where most people would add in their water. Sparkling water is a superior choice, making the most of those bubbles to create a lighter sauce. And also those bubbles are going to help to disperse all of those fat droplets within the sauce, so just stabilizing what we've got here. You can see how the texture of that has changed. Sparkling water giving us perfectly light, perfectly airy hollandaise.
Cooking an onion in the microwave is the best way to cook an onion. It cooks from the inside out, meaning the outside of your onion isn't super soft and knackered by the time the inside is cooked. Place it cut side down onto a plate and microwave it so the outside feels soft to the touch. Oh, brings me back. We used to use this in Heston Blumenthal's kitchens. So you can just then take your cooked onion, soft to the touch, you can see the moisture coming out from the bottom, and then you can just peel off the outside layers, leave the root intact, and then we're gonna place this straight into a jar. Then we're just gonna submerge these in pickle, Perfect as a garnish.
When you're cooking pork belly or roasted duck, you want to score the skin to ensure that the fat can render out and you get a really crispy finish. The usual way of doing that is with a knife. It's very easy to go through the skin, through the fat, and actually into some of the flesh. Hack for that is to use a Stanley knife. At the point that you pop the blade out, you can just double check that it's not going to go down as far as any of the actual meat. It's just going to go through the skin. You can just score across the top. At no point have we actually pierced any of the meat. Those juices are going to be kept in. And this is an extra little hack for you. Foil boat around the meat, but keep the skin exposed, and that's going to catch all of the fat and basically confit the meat. Generously season the top with Malden. As you can see, all of the fat has rendered out of all of those scores that we made with the Stanley knife, giving us the perfect crisp with all of that juicy meat inside.
One of the best ways to get crispy fish skin is to leave your fish uncovered in the fridge. This has been drying in the fridge for 6 hours, and I'm going to show you the difference between this and a fresh one. Dried, non-dried. I'm going to cook them exactly the same way, show you the difference. So I'm just going to put a little touch of oil and seasoning on the skin, and then we're going to place these down on the plancha and just put a slight weight on the top. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the second fillet. Our fish has been cooking for 3 or 4 minutes, 90% on one side. We're just going to flip it over and touch it on the underside. This is the dried skin fish, and this was our undried skin. As you can see, this is still a perfectly beautiful bit of sea bass, but the drying out method just really takes it up another level.
This hack will give you a week extra shelf life on your berries. What we want is 1 part vinegar to 4 parts water. Take your berries, give them a really quick rinse inside this solution, take them out, let them dry, place them into your container. You don't need to rinse them for very long at all. You just need to submerge them in the vinegar water, and the vinegar will kill the mold spores that are naturally present. I know you're thinking, does the vinegar make them taste funny? Well, no, it doesn't. The ratio of 1 to 4 means it's diluted enough so that you don't really notice. Here's our berries, rinsed nice and dry. I'm gonna whack in these unrinsed, and we can show you the effect into the fridge for 7 days. Let's see the difference. It's been a week. Let's check on our berries. Beautiful, still completely fresh. Compared to this, which is 7 days old, absolute night and day difference.
Have you ever grabbed your sugar to realize it's full of all these annoying lumps? The easy way to get rid of it is to pop it in the microwave. The microwave will get rid of all that moisture and leave you with perfect, smooth, lump-free sugar.
Kitchen hack for filleting salmon. Salmon is very slippery. Trying to fillet it and grip it can sometimes be very tricky. As you can see, it's sliding right out of my hands. One technique is actually to make a small incision down to the skin. That's going to give you a little bit of a holding point. You can then use your knife, go under. Once you're into the fish, you lift it up and you can get a good grip. You can then follow through with filleting the salmon like so. Alternatively, you can do the same scenario by just punching a small hole into the skin, and the same way. Gives you a little bit more grip, a little bit more stability to stop it from slipping. Easy peasy. That was cringy as hell.
I've taken my old herbs and I've placed them into my blending jug, and I'm gonna put double the amount of oil in. We're gonna blend it till it's in 70 to 80 degrees, which is gonna be hot to the touch. The color's changing here from light green to dark green. We're gonna pour our green oil over our absorbent paper, leaving behind the pulpy, herby residue, and the oil will soak through. You have a perfectly green herb oil, suitable for dressing, salads.
Very often when we're roasting chicken or putting it on a rotisserie, the meat is cooked perfectly, but we don't get quite enough browning on the outside. So a really nice hack for that is when you put the chicken in for a wet brine, add 6 grams of bicarb per 450 grams of meat. It raises the pH on the surface of the chicken skin, which means that you get a much quicker, deeper Maillard reaction. As you can see, our rotisserie chickens are beautifully golden with like really crispy skin. So you can just see how moist that chicken breast is inside.
Something you've probably done a lot of in the kitchen is trying to peel thyme leaves from the sprig. The best way that you can do that is to hold on to the sprig and to pull down. It still lands you with quite a lot of twiggy bits. Frankly, to do this for a whole bunch of time, it just takes a very long time. We're gonna freeze it. Okay, so we have our frozen thyme, and you're literally just gonna hold it in your hands and just twist it back and forth. And I mean, you can see it literally just like flies straight off. And that freezing process has basically just made the leaves super, super brittle. So this is a particularly good hack if you've got quite a lot of time that you wanna get through, because that's a lot of time for not very much time. So sorry.
Cookie dough can be hard to manage when it's fresh, and it can result in uneven cooking. So the hack is to use a bit of parchment to shape your cookie dough, result in much more uniform cookies. And then use the parchment, shape it into a log, perfectly even cylinder, and then just keep rolling it over until you get a perfect log, and just cut off the excess paper. And then we're gonna pop that in the freezer to set. Our cookies are now frozen and cut into even shapes. Splash of water on the tray, just to help the paper stick. Yes, that's another hack for you. That one's free of charge. And we're gonna bake them till perfectly soft and gooey before we we show you our second hack. We've got our perfectly baked cookies. To get the perfect shape when they come out the oven, you're gonna take a ring cutter, place it around the warm cookie, and then just gonna swivel it round to reset the shape, and this will make them nice and round and even. Do it while it's hot so that you can remold the shape before it sets.
People always ask us how we get the added crunch on our wings at Fallow. This batter doesn't contain any oil, and you can see the wing is crispy, but not perfect. Adding a touch of oil to the batter disrupts the structure of the batter. It puffs more, resulting in a much lighter crisp. Wing number 1, no oil. Wing number 2, added oil. First wing has got a perfect coat of crispiness all over. With the other wing, you get this really nice little intricate connection, bubbles, where you can see the batter has been interrupted. Very crispy.
A lot of people make rochets like this. They don't take it confidently in one motion and they stick to the spoon. Here's an hack to do the perfect rochet. Warm spoon and then confident motion and just carve the ice cream just like that. As easy as that.
This chicken breast, as you can see, is a very uneven shape and can give you a wonky ballantine. We're just going to take the fillet out, remove all the sinew, and then we're going to reposition the fillet at the tail end of the breast, giving you a much more even shape. So for the balancing, we're going to lay the cling film down. First, make the shape, roll it over a couple of times, with one hand holding the cling film, one hand holding the breast, pulling it really tightly, and then rolling. And then keep going until you're confident that you've got the perfect shape. Twist the cling film, tuck it underneath the breast, and do the same with the tail. Much more even shaped chicken breast. And now that's ready for cooking.
One of the biggest hazards in a kitchen environment, having a board moving around. The way that lots of people fix that is by getting some blue roll, getting it wet, laying it down to give it some stability. Blue roll is incredibly wasteful, so in the kitchen, this slip mat, we actually use them to stop our wine bottles from moving around. At home, you may not have a slip mat to hand, but what you might have is one of these culinary jars. You just take off the rubber seal, grab a couple of those and put it at the base. It's gonna do exactly the same thing.
This is how most people fill piping bags. As you can see, it creates a lot of mess. So here's the hack. So ideally you wanna open the piping bag all the way down and then just use your hand to hold it in place. So then ready to load. Just use your hand as kind of like a scraper as well for the maurice. And even if it drips down the sides, it's still quite open. It's not gonna create a mess to the outside, so it's still gonna keep it quite clean. Once you're ready, fill it back up. And now, mess-free. Now a little hack for you. If you're a pastry chef, or most pastry chefs, always have one of these in the back pocket, and you can use it to just push your cream up, and like this is way cleaner. Hack number 3, we can use the scissors and just do a small cut on the top. And then once you have 2 sides, you can literally just tie it, and like this will be safe to use during a busy service. And there we go.
Making short crust, people often start with their flour and butter in big cubes. What happens is you start to break it up, and the more you touch it, the more the butter melts. It creates quite a warm pastry, and you don't get really nice cold dough. The butter starts to melt, the flakes aren't really even, and it takes a really long time to break it up. So my hack now is to have frozen butter. Keep your flour an hour before you start your pastry in the freezer, so that's ice cold too. And then you're just gonna grate your butter straight into your cold flour. For the same amount of time, I've got this texture with my grated butter. I've got this with my flour and cubed butter.
I got some lovely Cornish clams here. I'm gonna show you on how to purge your clams to remove all the grittiness. It's got some salt here, and I'm essentially gonna make a little saline solution, 3% salt. All right, I'm gonna give that a little whisk, make sure the salt dissolves, and I'm just gonna remove the clams from the bag. These are still alive, so once we put them in here, the salt is gonna make them feel at home and then essentially open them up, and all the little bits of grit and sand are gonna come out. I'm gonna take a perforated gastro, that's one with holes, and I'm gonna put it in a tray. I'm gonna add my clams, and I'm gonna take the saline solution, just gonna pour it over the clams. And then I'm gonna put this in the fridge, hour and a half, 2 hours. It's been 2 hours now. Lightly just give them a shake. Look at all that grit and all the gummy stuff that has come out of the clams. Nobody likes a gritty clam.
We've got our beans on order. We've got our perfectly blanched beans here. We know they're already perfectly cooked, so now we just need to season and reheat them. So we're gonna go salt, pepper, touch of butter emulsion. The technical cooking has already been done. We've locked in the color, and now we can just gently reheat them. And in under 2 minutes, the beans are ready for service.
When you're prepping salad, it's really important to keep the leaves cold so they don't wilt. We use a steamer tray over ice in a large crepe with water. If you don't put the steamer tray in, you have to pick all the ice out individually. So this way you can just drain the leaves by lifting the steamer, and they stay fresh for service. This also works for blanching. Tray straight in, cools down super quick, and again, it's easy to drain off. You can do this at home with a colander if you don't have a steamer tray.
Really important way to stay ahead during service is to use tempered meat. All our steaks are out here tempering. These are our fillet steaks and our big steaks at the back, all coming to room temperature. This is a steak that's been tempering for around about 45 minutes. The reason we temper is because the fat gets soft, which means it gets a better crust, it cooks more evenly, and it comes up to temperature quicker. This has been out of the fridge for about 35 minutes. It's on 21 degrees. Compare that to our steak that's in the fridge, it's only on 6 degrees. Unbelievably, this is going to take double the amount of time to cook. Because the fat on this steak is softer, it's going to render out quicker and give you a better crust. The one from the fridge is not going to do the same. On the steak that was rendered, look how much better the crust is because the fat's rendered out quicker. Straight from the fridge. Much more pale, lots of white patches. Steaks have been cooking for the same amount of time. The one that we allowed to come to room temp. Perfect medium rare. No grain line and perfectly pink wall to wall. So this is our one from the fridge. Completely raw in the middle. Exactly the same cook time. Tempering is the secret weapon of the grill chef.
This oil is really, really hot. Currently, it's at 160, and I would love to drop this to a comfy temperature. Nice little hack that we have in our kitchen, which is to add neutral oil, room temp, carefully as possible. We're gonna give that a little bit of a wait, literally a minute or two. It is now probing to 115.
So a small bottle for service can be a real pain in the arse. Could use a funnel. Very slow, lots of wastage. Could use a piping bag. Very effective, but again, lots of wastage. Spoon, forget about it. Take a small bottle, suck all the air out, and then place just the very top inside the liquid. Tap it down to the bottom, and then repeat one more time. Tap it off, then pop the lid on. Hack 67.
If you have an old loaf of bread, what we do is just semi-freeze it, and then we're just gonna cut really thin slices out of it. With a fresh loaf, it's all soft and squidgy, and you just won't get the same finish. The bread tears, and your knife will stick to the tackiness of the dough. We can bake these in the oven for the ultimate crouton. Bake these between 2 trays, and after 15 minutes, you'll have the perfect crouton.
One of my favorite hacks, and it's when you're making bread. There's actually 2. I've got water, and I use that when I'm folding my dough. I can wet my hands, and I don't get my hands as dirty. This is still really hard to get off with just soap and water. I like to keep a bowl of flour next to me as well, and I just rub my hands together with the flour. So this just gets off all those big pieces of dough. When I go to wash my hands, I don't have these huge pieces of dough.
As a pastry chef, we use a lot of baking paper. We could go one by one, and it's quite uneven. Here's a hack to do multiple, all the same size. Fold one on its own and set the right size. And then we just fold and fold, just copying the exact same length. And once we have the amount desired, we'll cut both sides, multiple, all the same size.
If you want a perfect dice, and it works for things like tartare, tuna, this is how you would usually slice fillet of beef or tartare. See how it's moving around quite a bit, especially here on the end, like it's beef fillet. I don't want to get any wastage. A bit harder to hold. You're not necessarily going to get an even piece. Also with beef fillet, it's so tender that it just stretches. We're going to give you a hack. Make it better. We have a semi-Fredo. It's not fully frozen, still has a little bit of give, but it's just frozen enough that I can get absolute perfect precision. Hasn't moved at all, and every one is exactly the same size. Can't really spread that. And I can easily just stack them on top of each other. See how that one is, you know, it's kind of a square. That one, not really a square at all.
Standard way when cutting a lime is to go directly in half. You barely get any juice coming out. So the best way to cut a lime is to hold it from top to bottom and cut directly in half widthways. This way you open up the structure of the lime, open out the segments, and you can get so much more juice coming out of the lime.
If you don't have a piping bag, this is a hack to make one with parchment paper. You want to fold a triangle, get like a really straight edge. Once you get to a piece of paper like that, fold it on its own, leaving your fingers in to shape it, and then just lock in by folding it in. There we go. So we're just gonna add a little bit of melted chocolate to avoid creating a mess. Just fold it in. It's creating tension in the piping bag so it doesn't open on its own. Do a small opening. You can just use it to write things or just pipe it on the plate. This hack doesn't help if you have bad handwriting.
Best way to cut cherry tomatoes fast, place your tomatoes on top of the lid in one layer, place another lid on top, upturned, taking a serrated knife for the cleanest edge, and all these cherry tomatoes are perfectly cut in half.
This is the final hack and the one that you've all been waiting for. How to make an epic cartouche.
You asked, we delivered. For the perfect cartouche, you're going to take your baking parchment, you're going to pull a nice sheet, making sure that it covers the surface area of your pan. Then you're going to find a sharp edge or a knife and break the parchment in a perfect line, like so. But you're going to fold that parchment in half. And you're literally going to keep going in half, turn it 90 degrees in half again. You're then going to go in half again, but then it's going to turn from a square to a triangle. In half again, and then in half again. Once you get to this point where you can't fold in half anymore, place it over the top of your pan, putting the very tip, the center of the pan. You're gonna put your finger and then come out about 1/3 of a centimeter, cut where the edge of the pan was. A very tiny bit off the center, which is gonna create an air hole. Unravel your paper, the perfect circumference of your pan. Place it simply over the surface, a cartouche. The perfect lid for any pan, allows just enough moisture out, yet still protecting the surface of the contents of your pan. Like a chef,